Audio Jungle.
1776 BN. Today's date is January 27th, 2019, and my main theme has always been to prepare for any situation. One of the best places I found to purchase survival supplies and emergency preparedness gear and food is My Patriot Supply. They understand the drive to practice emergency preparedness. Why? Because My Patriot Supply are active participants in the survivalist lifestyle. My Patriot Supply offers a vast array of survival items. Go to mypatriotsupply.com today and get prepared for any situation, because true freedom comes from attaining a certain level of self-reliance. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, we understand that Trump has been talking about the fake news for a very long time, saying not the journalist and the news reporting, it's the fake news that they've been putting out there. And we've already seen layoffs of 1,000 people, and there's going to be more. Trump tweeted out the following: Axe falls quickly at BuzzFeed and Huffington Post. Headline: New York Post, fake news and bad journalism have caused a big downturn. Sadly, many others will follow. The people will want the truth. And what Trump and the Patriots have been doing is they have been exposing the mainstream media at every turn. So let's start off with what happened with Roger Stone here. The arrest was broadcasted to the world by CNN. They made it look impressive, like they were going into battle to get someone who worked for Trump. They were trying to make the case that Trump, the people that used to work with him or he's associated with, they're dangerous, and we need to take extra precautions because they might try something. We know that this was a setup. To take extra precautions because they might try something. We know that this was a setup. The question is by who? And what was the real motivation behind the arrest? Everything you're watching is not always what it seems. It's a show. That's what we're watching right now. Trump tweeted out the following: CBS reports that in the Roger Stone indictment, data was released during the 2016 election to damage Hillary Clinton. Oh, really? What about the fake and unverified dossier? A total phony con job that was paid for by crooked Hillary to damage me and the Trump campaign. What about all of the one-sided fake media coverage? This is in brackets. Collusion with crooked H that I had to endure during my very successful presidential campaign. What about the now revealed bias by Facebook and many others? Roger Stone didn't even work for me anywhere near the election. Well, let's take this line where Trump says about all the one-sided fake media coverage, collusion with crooked H. Let's go back to post 1515. Now, this was back in June 16, 2018, where Q gave us this diagram of all the news media and all the personnel, named all the personnel who basically got their information from the deep state. And under this diagram, it says, these reporters at networks have been named in the WikiLeaks to have colluded with the DNC or Hillary campaign during the 2016 election cycle. I wonder what Roger Stone has on Hillary and the DNC with WikiLeaks. But let's continue. So CNN was the only news source that was tipped off. The question we need to ask ourselves is why? The deep state needed a distraction, and they needed to show something dramatic. They needed to change the narrative. But this will be short-lived. What if the White Hats leaked fake info and put all of this into motion? This is coming out of the Gateway Pundit. Think about this for a sec. Roger Stone was arrested early in the morning, as the FBI always does. Another American attacked by the mobsters in the deep state due to his relationship with the president. But there is something more than coincidental about this arrest. Not only was CNN there to film the arrest, proving again that Mueller mobsters are colluding with the members of the deep state and corrupt media, but there is something more. There is always something that is breaking really deep state whenever they attempt to change the news cycle. And this time, it's not any different. Over the past couple of days, the testimony of former FBI General Counsel James Baker was released. Baker resigned, and he too was a crook and involved in the deep state efforts to aid Hillary Clinton in her bid to become president and their attempted coup to remove President Trump after he defeated Hillary in the 2016 election. What Baker said was shocking, especially his testimony surrounding this missing corrupt FBI agent, Joseph Pienka. According to Brian Cates at the Epoch Times, the Baker testimony was explosive. Baker stated that the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court was not alerted to the fact that much of the information in the surveillance warrant on Trump campaign foreign policy advisor Carter Page was being provided by paid political propagandists employed by the Hillary Clinton campaign. To continue receiving Trump-Russia collusion propaganda from opposition, we established a back channel through former Associate Deputy Attorney General Bruce Ohr at the Department of Justice. After every meeting with Steele, Ohr would sit down for an interview with the FBI Special Agent Joseph Pienka, who would fill out official FD 302 interview forms to pass on the information within the FBI. Now, according to Cates, it seems something spooked the Spygate plotters into presenting the appearance of drawing back from Christopher Steele and Fusion GPS while still surreptitiously using the political propaganda shop as a source for their ongoing investigations. This back channel allowed the FBI to hide Fusion GPS's and the Clintons' campaign role in providing much of the evidence being used to drive these political motivated investigations of Trump and his associates. This means it's highly likely that when Bruce Ohr personal notes from his meeting with Fusion GPS are compared with the official FD 302 interview forms that Agent Pienka filled out following his interviews with Ohr, they are not going to match when it comes to what the stated source was for the Trump-Russia information. Cates tweeted the point from his article where he states that Pienka is involved in two major scandals involving Trump. Russia collusion sham, these phony 302s he took from his discussion with Ohr was one. Pienka was also the agent, along with the very corrupt and now fired FBI agent Peter Strzok, who ambushed General Michael Flynn at the White House, which led to reports Flynn lied to the FBI. This is his tweet. Pienka has now been revealed to be at the center of the beating heart of not just one big scandal in the FBI, but two. One, General Flynn prosecution, and two, the secret Fusion GPS FBI back channel. Of course, they got him under oath on both of these. Pienka has some very damaging goods on the entire Russia collusion sham, which may all be connected to Uranium One, the Iran deal, and other real Russia collusion actions taken by the Obama White House. This is why he was not interviewed by Congress, because they all know the Dems would leak and mislead any information from these investigations. So now let's go back to BuzzFeed for a minute and the article that they ran that was completely fake, phony, and false. And we're going to start to put all this together here. The questions we need to ask is, how does the mainstream media get their information? Leaks? Well, leaks from who? The deep state, those in the House and Senate, the intelligence organizations. But who's in control? The Patriots. So you might have noticed that the DNC media complex, the number of overhyped Trump-Russia collusion bombshells that get published are coming faster and faster now. And they quickly blow up and fall apart with the number of overhyped Trump-Russia collusion bombshells that get published are coming faster and faster now. And they quickly blow up and fall apart within just a few days. And it's kind of weird. All of a sudden they have this bombshell, and then people start to rip it apart, and they find out, wait a minute, this is all fake. Remember, the mainstream media reporters, they don't have to produce any evidence themselves for their stories before they go public. So, again, where do they get information? Well, from leaks. Leaks from who? The deep state, those in the House and Senate, the intelligence organizations. But who's in control? The Patriots. Hold that in a separate part of your brain right now. Let's continue here. It's often the case that these reporters don't even need to see any evidence themselves before publishing a story. All they need are announcers who make a claim they saw something. The mere claim from a few anonymous sources is now enough to launch stories containing explosive accusations that come to dominate a daily or weekly news cycle before they are exposed as being fake. This brings us to the latest media fiasco. BuzzFeed, the fake news report that the special counsel had documentary evidence proving that Trump directed his then lawyer Michael Cohen to lie to the Congress about a deal to build Trump Tower in Moscow. Remember, BuzzFeed reporters Jason Leopold and Anthony Cormier. The story quickly took off on publication and dominated the national news for the entire day. Then it all fell apart. The question is why? What happened? The leaks that are coming out now, and you see all these stories, and they say they have these bombshells and they fall apart. This is being done on purpose by the White Hats. They are leaking this information to certain individuals in the House, in the Senate, and in certain intelligence organizations. And what happens with this information? It is quickly published without the reporters seeing anything. This is all being done on purpose because they believe the leakers. But who's feeding the leakers? The White Hats. It's being done on purpose to trap the mainstream media. Remember, the plan is not just with Clinton, Comey, Brennan. The plan involves many, many parts. The mainstream media is a part. The central bank is a part. We have the spying is a part. We have Uranium One. We have the Clinton emails. These are all separate parts. And what they're doing is they're using different parts to trap each one of these sources. And they're going to bring it together in the end. Let's just go back to Trump's tweet for a sec and see how this is all playing out. With all of the success that our country is having, including the just released job numbers, which are off the charts, the fake news and totally dishonest media concerning me and my presidency has never been worse. Many have become crazed lunatics who have given up on the truth. January 7th. The fake news media in our country is the real opposition party. It is truly the enemy of the people. We must bring honesty back to journalism and reporting. January 7th again. The fake news will knowingly lie and demean in order to make the tremendous success of the Trump administration and me look as bad as possible. They existent sources and write stories that are totally fiction. Our country is doing so well, yet this is a sad day in America. January 19th. Fake news is truly the enemy of the people. They're continually feeding the mainstream media fake leaks. They're trapping the mainstream media over and over and over again with fake stories. This is all being done on purpose to wake the American people up, to show that it's fake reporting. It's not real. And if you noticed, Schiff had to admit that he was leaking information. Of course, he tried to spin it, saying that, no, I was exposing, but this is part of this plan to bring down the mainstream media. This is why we're seeing layoffs right now. So now let's go to Roger Stone. White House, first of all, are leaking fake information, making the media look bad at every turn. I had to admit that it was fake. The mainstream media needs to stick to their lies, but this will catch up to them. So Mueller came out and said, no, this is all fake. This is not real, which went against the mainstream media. Remember, Mueller's trying to save himself. Trump and the Patriots, they're in the process of exposing the media. Think about the raid on Roger Stone. The leak came out. The CNN reporter said he had a hunch and he was just waiting there. But everyone called him out on it and said, this is fake. You were tipped off. This is not investigative reporting. They knew exactly what was going on. And remember what Q told us in Post 1842. Never interfere with an enemy while he's in the process of destroying himself. Now, Roger Stone was arrested, And we know that he has a lot of information. Q also says in Post 1842, when people are arrested and they have to defend themselves, what happened? Process. Is this a coincidence? Most likely not. And remember, Mueller is trying to save himself. The deep state already realizes that Mueller, he has nothing. There's nothing they can use from Mueller. And what's very interesting is Mueller is going after all these different individuals, going in all different directions. He's brought all these people in on lying. And you can see this is the main focus right now, that these individuals lied to the FBI or to Congress. Yes, there were other charges, but this had nothing to do with Russian collusion or even with Trump. This was their own personal problems that they had. So we can see right now, I know the mainstream media is out there pushing this, but all of this is going to be a dead end. Now, Nancy Pelosi, she is now out in the open and she's making her move. And Nancy Pelosi reeled up quite a bit. January 26. At Real Donald Trump's continued effort to undermine Special Counsel Mueller's investigation raises the questions. What does Putin have on Real Donald Trump politically, personally, or financially? Why was the Trump administration continue to discuss pulling the U.S. out of NATO, which would be a massive victory for Putin? So right now, Nancy Pelosi is panicking, as you can see, trying to push the idea that Putin has something on Trump, and she's already letting us know that Mueller has been undermined already. And you can see that she is in a deep, deep panic because the Mueller investigation went absolutely nowhere. So what is she doing right now? Well, she has hired Department of Justice official Douglas Letter to be the chief legal counsel for the House. That becomes important because there are new powers granted to the House counsel. From Pelosi's House rules, we now know that Elijah Cummings will deliver the schedule for impeachment hearings before his deadline on April 15th. Speaker Pelosi is creating her own mini Department of Justice inside the legislative branch. Why? Because the Mueller report will show nothing. They need to get ahead of this before all of this comes out. So they're trying to create all these investigations, and Q has already told us that the investigations are going to move from Mueller to the House as their insurance policy. What are they going to get out of this? Nothing. So Pelosi is pushing the impeachment process. Remember Donna Brazile? She tweeted out the following, hashtag Madam Speaker today, hashtag President Pelosi shortly thereafter, hashtag MLK weekend is underway. Keep hope alive. Well, we know that Martin Luther King was assassinated. I believe this was the code of this is the beginning. You are now activated. Let's move on all this. And they're going down the impeachment path. So where does the impeachment path lead? Nowhere. Why? Let's go back to Post 2604. Securing the Senate meant everything. Securing the Supreme Court meant everything. Let's go to Post 2584. RE number 5, impeachment. Now, Q gave us a document which goes over the Senate impeachment role. It takes 2/3 vote by the Senate. Who's in control of the Senate? The Patriots. We've already seen the power of the Senate. Remember, the House tried to push spending bills that did not have any wall funding? Did they pass the Senate? No. They were shot down every single time. The Patriots are in control of the Senate. So what does that mean for Pelosi if the impeachment process is going to go nowhere? It will never get through the Senate. Well, it looks like from Donna Brazile's tweet, they have many different stages of getting rid of the president. And it looks like the first stage is impeachment. The second stage might be assassination. Remember the line of succession. Trump, Pence, then Pelosi. And remember what Donna Brazile said. Well, Madam Speaker today, President Pelosi shortly thereafter. So it looks like they're following their agenda. But you need to remember the Patriots are setting all of these individuals up. And they're blocked at every turn. there's nothing they can do. And this plan that we continually talk about, it's in many different pieces. They're hitting the mainstream media very, very hard by leaking out fake information. The mainstream media is destroying themselves over and over and over again. The House, they're stuck. There's nothing they can do. They believe they have the power with all these investigations. It will lead them no place. The Senate is the firewall. And we've already seen the power of the firewall. So all of this is going as planned. Now, Trump is letting the American people know why we need the wall, how much was spent on illegals, and he's hitting the people where it counts, their wallet. He tweeted out the following: "We are not even into February, and the cost of illegal immigration so far this year is $18 billion, almost $19 billion. Cost Friday was $603 million. There are at least 25 million illegal aliens, not the 11 million that have been reported for years in our country. So ridiculous, DHS." Now, what's very interesting is when Trump continually puts out these stats, I know the mainstream media likes to counter them and fact check them and show that he's completely wrong. But think about what he's doing and what they're doing. They don't even know it. So when Trump puts this out there and he says, we're not even into February and the cost of illegal immigration so far this year is almost $19 billion. Yes, the mainstream media might come and say, no, we've only spent $12 billion. Let's just use that number. We still spent $12 billion compared to the $5.7 billion that he wants for the wall. It still shows that we're spending a huge amount of money on people who entered this country illegally. Even if they say, well, it's not 25 million illegal aliens, it's only 20 million illegal aliens. There's 20 million illegal aliens in this country. The mainstream media believes, oh, look, we just put one on over on Trump there and we corrected his numbers. No, what they did was they put the numbers out there, and most likely theirs is wrong and his is right, but it still shows that it's ridiculous. And that's what is getting out there, and people are starting to wake up. Now, Trump is going directly at Schumer right now. Trump tweeted out, "Build wall and crime will fall," and showed this video, which shows that Israel built this wall, and it's 99.9% effective in keeping people out. Well, Schumer funded Israel's wall, but won't fund ours. Schumer allowed money to go to Israel to build a wall, and the wall works. He just set Schumer up. Now remember, this brief 21 days of opening the government is to take the focus off of Trump and put it onto Congress, because they're the ones opening the government is to take the focus off of Trump and put it onto Congress, because they're the ones who have to negotiate and work together to get this bill through. So the spotlight is on Pelosi, Schumer, and the rest, not on Trump anymore. And he's giving Congress to work together for 21 days. Can you imagine if Congress can't work together for 21 days to put together a spending bill? Well, we have a problem, don't we? And this is what Trump is showing America. Remember, Congress right now has like one of the lowest ratings. And Trump is letting and speaking to the American people and all the Annans. And he tweeted out the following: "I wish people would read or listen to my words on the border wall. This was in no way a concession. It was taking care of millions of people who were getting badly hurt by the shutdown, with the understanding that in 21 days, if no deal is done, it's off to the races." And then let me continue with the White House tweet. At Real Donald Trump: "If we don't get a fair deal from Congress, the government will either shut down on February 15th again, or I will use the powers afforded to me under the laws of the Constitution of the United States to address this emergency. We will have great security." Now, what's the emergency? Congress can't work together. That's one part of the emergency. There's a caravan coming up to the border, and they're ready to invade the United States. That's the other emergency. Think about what he's done. He's completely boxed them in and trapped the deep state. Bill Mitchell said it beautifully in a tweet. No, Pelosi is utterly boxed in. Either she caves on funding and appears weak to her caucus, or she blocks funding and gets zero concessions. Appearing weak to her caucus, either way, Trump still gets the wall. There is no direction in which Trump does not win. Think about what is happening here. The spotlight is on them. And no matter what, he can build the wall. He's free to do whatever he wants. It makes no difference. And look how they're going to look. So think about the entire plan right now and what's happening. We have them leaking fake information to different sources. The mainstream media is putting it out there. Then they're shown to be completely fake, phony, and false. And this is happening over and over and over again. This is being done on purpose to bring down the mainstream media. Trump made it perfectly clear that the mainstream media is going to lose their entire audience because they don't tell the truth. And then you have the declassification, the FISA, and everything else with the discovery process, with the investigations. That is all happening. And then we have the Senate and the firewall. No matter what they try, nothing can happen. Mueller's trying to save himself. The deep state is stuck right now. This is all part of the plan. Yes, you see a lot of propaganda on the mainstream media. Yes, it seems like they have total control. They don't. It's meant to seem this way, to give them the idea that they're in power. In the meantime, he's taking the hammer, swinging it, and knocking out in Venezuela. We see already that Europe demands free elections in Venezuela. What? They want elections, snap elections in Venezuela. They want the people to vote. Now, what's very interesting is that the EU states identically raise pressure on Maduro all together at the same time, saying the same exact thing. Their statements are completely identical, and they were done at the same exact time. So France, Germany, Spain, all of them, exactly the same time. Remember, the deep state, they've been trying forever to get Maduro out. Remember what Trump has done here. Remember that he works with the deep state to make them think they have the upper hand. Remember Syria. He bombed Syria, and the neocons thought, wow, he's working with bomb Syria, and the neocons thought, wow, he's working with us. He's going after Assad. No, that's not what he was doing. He was destroying the deep state infrastructure. Think about North Korea. The neocons thought he's going to start a war. In the meantime, behind the scenes, he was talking about peace. So what is he doing in Venezuela? He's giving, and who's pushing this? Marco Rubio and the other neocons. And we'll get into that in just a minute. Maduro, who was saying that he wants all U.S. diplomats out of the country, well, he kind of backtracked on this, and it looks like he's allowing them to stay right now. So let's go through this a little bit and see what's going on here. The mainstream media, Nikki Haley, the other neocons, they've been pushing Maduro and trying to get him out there. They've been placing sanctions, making the people in Venezuela feel pain. They want the people to feel pain. They want the people to feel pain to rise up and go after Maduro. And we know in the past, they've been talking about a military operation in Venezuela, which Trump is not going to allow this to happen. Just like he's not going to bring in hundreds of thousands of troops into Syria, invade North Korea with 100,000 troops. No. He's giving the deep state what they always wanted. He said, okay, I'm going to say the opposition leader is now the president. Let the people of Venezuela decide. Now remember, Maduro was elected by the people. They don't have ballot boxes down there. The mainstream media was out there saying that Maduro was elected because he stuffed the ballot boxes with his name, but they don't use ballot boxes in Venezuela. What do they use? Well, everyone is fingerprinted. It's an electronic system. And finger on their system, and your ID is then recorded. So everyone is ID'd when they vote. So there are no ballot boxes. They made that up. Now, Pompeo was talking about Article 233 of the Constitution in Venezuela. So what is Article 233? What does it say? Well, it details the procedures for the case that the president becomes permanently unavailable, which Nicolas Maduro is obviously not. Moreover, the next in place, if the president becomes unavailable, is the vice president, not the leader of the National Assembly. The guy who Trump said this is the president, he has no legal basis to claim the presidency right now. Now, they would have to have an election, which the deep state world is pushing, and the people of Venezuela would have to decide who is their next leader. And remember, there's no ballot boxes. They have an ID system. It's their fingerprint. Yes, the United States doesn't have an ID system. This is why they can manipulate the elections, but Venezuela does. So Trump, the Patriots, knew that the deep state and the econs were going to make their move on Venezuela. They've been trying for a very long time. And we see all the same players calling for the elections. Trump is giving them what they want, just like with Syria and North Korea, without bringing in forces and starting a war. Now let's rewind a little bit and go back in time to Syria. Remember, during Obama's presidency, a lot of the people in Syria, they escaped because the Islamic State controlled most of the land in Syria. And back then, they had an election because they thought, okay, we had the Islamic State, we captured most of the land, and behold, they had the election, and guess what? The Syrian people voted for Assad to be president. Now, the deep state thought, well, we inflicted a lot of pain on the people. They've been in war for a long time. They're blaming this on Assad, and they will not vote for him. They will vote for someone else. It didn't work. Let's look at North Korea. Trump was out there tweeting like crazy that his nuclear button is bigger than Kim Jong-un, his nuclear button, that if he tries something, we'll strike back hard. This was during the time while they were having peace talks in the background. Now we see the same thing happening. If the people of Venezuela want change, this is their opportunity. So we have Marco Rubio, the other neocons, and the rest. They're all out there, and I'm just not talking about the United States. I'm talking about Europe and everywhere else, where they're putting a lot of pressure to have these snap elections. If the people want change, they will then vote for someone else. He's leading the deep state down a particular path, just like with North Korea and Syria. Do you think he just did this just to do it? Or do you think there are individuals that he made deals with and said, listen, I will say this person is the president, and the other European nations, of course, will follow along because they know that this is exactly what's going to happen. But once I do this, and there are elections, no matter what the outcome is, you'll have to stick by your deal with what I want. So look what Trump is doing right now. The same thing with North Korea, the same thing with Syria. Remember Bolton when he was out there saying the troops in Syria are never going to leave unless Iran leaves? Completely fake, phony, and false. Trump, once again, is playing them, leading them down this path. Now, it doesn't matter at this point who wins or loses. We know that Maduro was elected. We know that they have a fingerprint ID system that IDs every single person that votes. So we'll have to see how this plays out. But I do believe that they had chatter, they had information that something else was going to take place in Venezuela, and they cut that off way in advance, made deals with certain individuals that he need to make deals with to move ahead with the plan. Now, the mainstream media was out there saying that Trump wanted to leave NATO, and Trump tweeted out the following. Jens Stoltenberg, NATO Secretary General, just stated that because of me, NATO has been able to raise far more money than ever before from its members after years of decline. It's called burden sharing. Also, more united, Dem and fake news like to portray the opposite. And that's true. They always like to portray the opposite of what's going on and what's really happening. And Trump has always said, listen, We need other nations to step up. Why should the United States pay what we're paying here when other nations, well, they need NATO more than the United States. And if they're that afraid, they have to step up. And that's all he was saying. Again, the United States shouldn't be paying for everything, for everyone. If they want protection, they need to pay. Now, we were talking about voting and stuff like that, and Ken Paxton tweeted out the following. Voter fraud alert. The Texas Secretary of State discovered approximately 95,000 individuals identified by TPS as non-U.S. citizens have a matching voter registration record in Texas, approximately 58,000 of whom have voted in Texas elections. Any illegal vote deprives Americans of their voice, and that is true. Anyone that is voting illegally deprives every American of their voice. So we know that Trump, the team, the White Hats, they were investigating voter fraud. And I want to go back to post 2621, where an anon said, will voter fraud in California ever be brought to light? And Q said, yes, watch California was deliberate. Now, many of us thought it was the midterm elections, but I think this is going to happen during the 2020 elections. They were gathering the information not for the midterms, but for the 2020 elections, because we know the deep state, they're going to be trying a lot of different things. And this brings us to post 2610. And Anon says, will voter fraud be exposed before January? Q says, no. 2019 push voter ID based on verifiable intel fraud. 2020 plus safeguarded. So it looks like in 2019, they might be pushing voter ID to control the voting in the 2020 election. And I believe this is why Texas is out there already, and maybe other states, they're going to be coming out saying, okay, here is the voter fraud documentation. This is what we have to do. And I think this is going to be presented maybe this year to get voter IDs in place for the 2020 election. But weak state, they are backed in a corner. No matter which way they go, they are blocked. And they're the White Hats, Q, the Patriots, they're letting the deep state play this out. They want them to play this out because everything they do destroys themselves. This is all part of the plan. Everything that you're seeing is part of the plan. Enjoy the show. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.